Varsity Club, welcome back to another class. Look, today we got something different, something I've actually never done on the channel before. Is go ahead and look at some mock drafts for the NFL. Now, the time of this recording, we're roughly a month out from when the NFL draft actually happens. We've had a couple of trades that have taken place, and I'm going to go ahead and look at some mock drafts and maybe a series of videos and see if they're ultimately what I feel are right or if I feel they're wrong. And if you guys want to see more of these videos of me reacting to some mock drafts, let me know. Leave me a thumbs up on the video, subscribe if you haven't, hit the bell notification, and most importantly, leave me a comment down below. Tell me if there's a mock draft out there I should go check out, who has the best one, who has the worst one, and if you want to see my personal mock draft, 2,000 likes this video, 2,000 little thumbs up, I'll drop mine next video. So without any further ado, we are looking at Chris Trapasso of CBS Sports, his mock draft. I don't like a lot of his picks. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you up front. That's not saying he's wrong, and it's not saying I'm right. It's just saying that I disagree with a lot of these. I will say, to be fair, he had a previous mock draft that I think was one of the worst mock drafts I've ever seen, and let's take a quick look at why I think it was bad. So here's a look at what his mock draft was a couple of days ago, or about a week or so ago. Lawrence at 1, Wilson at 2, Justin Fields at 3 for Miami. I feel like he's just trying to generate clicks at this point. Waddle, Alabama, Chase, Trey Lance, Devonta Smith, Kyle Pitts at 8. Trevon Moehrig at 10. There is a lot of things that I disagree with. I will say, so again, this new draft is a little bit better for him, but let's go ahead and run through it. And so to be fair, this is a 7-round mock draft. If you want to check it out, there's a link in the description if you want to go peruse through it yourself. But here's what we've got. So Trevor Lawrence at 1. I think you're living underneath the rock if you think that Trevor Lawrence isn't going number 1. The Jags have made it pretty much clear he's the number 1 guy. He's been talked about as being the number 1 draft pick since basically he came into Clemson as a freshman. We know this one. Zach Wilson at number 2 also feels like a no-brainer. I mean, the Jets have fallen in love with this guy. There's still some reservations out here and there, but if you look at his pro day, I think he passed the eye test. He had good work when he was in college. The Jets probably taking Zach Wilson feels like a lock at this point as well. I think where things get interesting, though, is going to be the number 3 pick. You've got Justin Fields being mocked here by Trapasso to the 49ers. I don't think this is the guy. What we got news from today is that basically they're not even going to Justin Fields' pro day unless that's smoke screens, but the rumor is Mac Jones is the guy they want to take at 3. There's been a lot of comps to Mac Jones being like a Matt Ryan, where they have similar speed, they have similar reads, they have similar mechanics, they have similar throwing ability. I don't love Mac Jones like that. Maybe some of you in the comments love Mac Jones a ton, but I don't think Mac Jones is the guy here. That being said, if I were doing my own mock draft right now, I feel like I'd probably end up putting Mac Jones to San Fran just because we're getting so much buzz about him potentially going there. Do I love that pick? Do I think he's the guy for that? No and no, but do I think he ends up going there at this point? Probably so. At 4, he has Jamar Chase to Atlanta. Look, I get it. Jamar Chase, wide receiver. You could put him opposite of Julio Jones. When Julio Jones is healthy, he's one of, if not the best receiver in the league. But I don't think Atlanta picks here. To me, I think Atlanta either does one of 2 things. They're either trading out of the number 4 spot, or they're taking a quarterback at the spot. Maybe it's Trey Lance, maybe it's Justin Fields. Who knows who it might be, but to me, this feels like quarterback or trade out and nothing really else. And I know some Falcons fans probably don't want to hear that, but look, this is a strong quarterback class. I think you're crazy if you have one of these options to either not trade out to get maximum value or to take one of these quarterbacks to groom behind Matt Ryan, who does have a big deal, but at some point he's got to be out of there. At the 5th pick, he has Penei Sewell. Look, I don't think this is a terrible pick. Sewell makes a lot of sense. You have your quarterback of the future, Joe Burrow, who just had a nasty injury and is trying to come back through rehab right now to be 100%. You need to protect that young man because he looked like David Carr back when he played for the Texans, running around nonstop. There was not a lot of protection for him, and they need some help on the offensive line. There is another pick here that I wouldn't hate, though. It's Kyle Pitts, and if you watch Bengal, a great YouTuber here, you might know him as a versatile weapon. I think Pitts could still be fun here. You get a tight end, a guy for Burrow to go to in short yardage situations. He's a guy that's going to be a mismatch for a lot of linebackers. Pitts could be a lot of fun in Cincinnati and gives them a reason to get hyped, but still, they need offensive line help ASAP. Pick number 6, Trapasso puts Jalen Waddle to Miami. I get it. I get the Alabama to Alabama connection. I just don't think this is who Miami ends up taking. Everything we've been hearing, and for what just seems to make a lot more sense, is either Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase here. I feel like they end up going maybe Jamar Chase because he's a big receiver who can help them out a ton. Waddle's only about 5'10" or so. Devonta Smith also a little bit smaller. But whatever they do, I believe in the Dolphins because Brian Flores and Chris Greer and the rest of that team has done an incredible job. No one thought they'd be as good as they were last year, and they've been so much better than we ever thought. Give Tua some weapons. It'll be one of the receivers, probably Chase, maybe Smith. But I don't think it's Waddle here. At 7, he has Devonta Smith going to the Lions. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I can see Waddle making a lot of sense here, but regardless, they've got Jared Goff. They need some receivers, and gotta help them with their quarterback. PK to Trey Lance makes sense to me here. I think Trey Lance is going to fall somewhere between the 8 to 10 spot. I think if it's 10, it's the Cowboys trade out. Not saying the Cowboys are going to trade for him, but there are enough questions around Trey Lance solely because of COVID taking the season away from him and him not having an opportunity to really play more than one game in the past year. I can see the Panthers taking Trey Lance. I can also see them taking Justin Fields here. I think one of those two quarterbacks is probably the option. It just depends on what Matt Rule ultimately wants to do. Pick number 9 is where I started to get frustrated with this draft class, more than I was a little bit more. Why would the Broncos take Patrick Surtain here? Why? The Broncos just got Kyle Fuller in the offseason. They also have a really weird situation going on with Von Miller, not knowing whether they're going to, I don't even know if they picked up his option at this point or whether he's going to be in legal trouble or what's going to necessarily stem from that. Why would you not take Micah Parsons? Or a linebacker of similar caliber that you happen to agree? A linebacker and edge rusher makes so much more sense to me here than does a cornerback. I don't know why he would pick them. And he has Zaven Collins going to the Cowboys. He even writes, Jerry Jones sends shockwaves to the NFL with his selection, but Collins is a do-everything linebacker who boosts the play of that unit instantly. I'm not saying that Collins isn't going to be a good young player. I like him a lot. He's a big dude, 6'4", 260. He's going to make shockwaves, to use his terminology, in the NFL. You are not picking him at 10. You're not. The pick that makes the most sense here, and I think what most people are expecting right now, is Patrick Surtain to go to the Cowboys. I don't think the Broncos take him. I don't think anybody else prior to them takes him. He goes to the Cowboys and becomes a much needed fit for what they need. Zaven Collins, no disrespect, just not here. Pick 11, he has Kyle Pitts. Again, if the Giants can get Kyle Pitts at number 11, I think they are screaming and they are super happy because that's a dude that can help them out immediately, especially with Daniel Jones needing a guy he can check down to consistently. That being said, I do not think Kyle Pitts falls all the way to 11. I think if he goes past 5, a team's going to trade up and try to get him. I can see even the Eagles trying to move up to get him in some way, shape, or form. I don't see Kyle Pitts here, but if he's there, sure, why not? At pick 12, he has Rashawn Slater going to the Eagles. Look, the Eagles offensive line isn't too far from having Tuesday nights for bingo because they're old, okay? They're not getting any younger. They need some help on the offensive line. I don't hate Rashawn Slater there, especially if Sewell is already gone, which we would imagine he is at this point. Take the second best offensive lineman for most people's rankings and get him some help right now. Protect your young QB. So for pick 13, he has the Cardinals and the Chargers making a trade here, and the trade he ultimately has coming out of here is the Cardinals move up with a swap of the first round picks along with a 2021 third round pick. I don't see a world where this happens. There's not enough value, and if he were a GM, he would be fired for that trade. You can't just swap first round picks though in a third rounder to move back a couple of slots here. It doesn't make sense to me because the Chargers are going to need to make sure they have an offensive line help to protect their young quarterback. Teams know they need to get guys on that offensive line to protect their guys, especially if they can get a left tackle here like Darrow Rd, or maybe someone of that nature. If you're going to move back, I think they want a little bit more than just swapping picks and getting a third rounder, in my opinion. Pick 14 for the Vikings, he is Kwity Paye going to them. I don't hate it. There's a couple of guys maybe could go in there. Depends if they value Paye higher than Rousseau or maybe some of the other guys there. The Vikings definitely need help on the defensive line, so this kind of makes sense to me. Pick 15, he has the Patriots taking Mac Jones. I'm not saying Belichick wouldn't take Mac Jones if he were here, but it's like saying, you know, Trevor Lawrence, if he's at 15, the Patriots take him. Of course they would. I'm not also saying that Mac Jones is anywhere close to Trevor Lawrence because in my opinion, he's not. What I'm saying is this is a quarterback strong draft and a lot of teams are believing heavily in these quarterbacks. So like we talked about earlier, I think Mac Jones will be well gone before pick 15 because teams are going to trade up or they're going to take him early because that's what they always do. I would imagine the Patriots do what the Patriots pretty much always do. They trade back in the first round, they stockpile some draft picks, and they figure out a talent that we've never heard of that really does incredibly well. That's what the Patriots do, and they're trying to get back to where they were. And speaking of the trade, I can see a team like Washington trying to trade up here to that 15 spot. If a quarterback has fallen, I would imagine they're going to be a heavy pursuer of trading up with teams. 15 is probably too far for some of these quarterbacks that they're going to tout, but I think those first 4 to 5 quarterbacks, Washington tries to make a play for at least one of them. At 16, he has the Chargers taking Darrow Rd. Look, I think this is probably a pick they go after if he's available for them, which I imagine he will be with how this draft might or might not shake out. But I don't think it's the 16. I think it's the 13. I don't think they do the trade. It just doesn't make any sense to me there. Pick 17, they have Christian Barmore out of Alabama. Again, another stud out there, but I don't think the Raiders go after him. Jason Owa, I think, makes more sense. That dude is a massive human being, run a sub 4.4 40-yard dash. The Raiders love one thing, speed, and rest in peace Al Davis, but that legacy of speed lives on. I think they take over here instead. At pick 18, I don't hate what he's doing here with the Dolphins, taking Barrett Tucker. Again, they need offensive line help. They want to make sure that it's shored up and strong as possible. They could go with a different talent depending what they do with their first overall pick here later on or earlier on in the draft, but I think offensive line makes a lot of sense. Just depends on who's available for them and when. Pick 19 is a Washington football team taking Kadarius Toney. Toney's solid. I like him. He's a solid receiver. I don't think Washington is here at 19. I think Washington at this point has traded up, and I think if they're at 19 and there's not a quarterback available that they like, I don't think they're taking Kadarius Toney. No disrespect to him, but I think there's other talent they'd probably rather have. They'll trade back, find a team that wants to get into this spot and do something different. 20, he has the Bears taking Tevin Jenkins. If I'm the Bears, I'm trying to draft a new GM. They need a lot more help than an offensive lineman, but again, offensive line is probably their best fit here. Their quarterback situation is going to be absolute garbage unless they do something for draft day and try to go for Russell Wilson. I think if I were doing this mock draft, I would have put a little note in there saying, hey, Russell Wilson trade, maybe still on the table. They're trying to mortgage their draft picks, then go get him. That being said, if I'm the Bears offensive line or best player available, they just need a lot more help than what one draft pick is going to give them. At pick 21, he has Elijah Moore going to the Indianapolis Colts. With all due respect to Elijah Moore, no. The Colts re-signed T.Y. Hilton and Xavier Rhodes to one-year deals each. So to me, they are probably going to go wide receiver or corner here because, again, those guys are in short leashes and you don't know who you're going to ultimately get for longer term. I don't think Elijah Moore is the guy here. I don't know what he's thinking with going after a guy this far down the wide receiver depth chart. There's other talent that he has not picked at this point that is better available or does a better fit for them. I don't know what he's thinking here. At pick 22, he is the Titans taking Ojulari. Again, I'm just a little confused. They just spent a ton of money going after Bud Dupree. They've got a pretty good defensive front and linebackers. Why are you going after another linebacker when there are other holes on your team? Not to mention they lost to Dory Jackson. They did, I guess, kind of replace him with Janoris Jenkins, but that seems like a one-year rental in my opinion. If I'm the Titans, I'm going corner. I'm definitely not going linebacker when your team is going to be good enough, if not superior, in that area. Pick 23, he has Rashad Bateman going to the New York Jets. The Jets are going to be in a good spot right now, right? You chose a quarterback as the number 2 pick overall. You feel like he's going to be your franchise guy. Darnold is probably either traded during this draft or traded shortly after. You never know what they're going to do with him. You have to go receiver here, in my opinion. Get that young guy some other weapons to have. Bateman could be solid. I don't really think he's the guy. I'm thinking maybe Rondale Moore is a little bit of a better fit, or Kadarius Toney, who we think won't go to Washington earlier in the draft. I'm probably going there if I'm them. The Pittsburgh Steelers at pick 24 are just in an interesting spot. You re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster to a lesser deal than you thought you were going to be able to get him for. Somehow they kept him. But a lot of their offense is in shambles. Part of that's to Big Ben needing to retire and them getting a quarterback. But because they're not getting a quarterback at this spot, I think you have to go with the next best position of impact for them. It's running back. I'm taking Najee Harris. I'm not going after another edge guy. They have enough talent on defense. Yes, I know you lost Bud Dupree. You're going to be fine enough on defense. The Steelers never draft a corner, which they probably should. They need another running back and they need an edge guy. One of those three is probably the move. But I feel like with Najee Harris in front of you, you can't pass it up with how bad your running game was last year. You get a franchise type running back finally, and you keep it moving. Pick 25, I understand the need to get Rondale Moore over to Jacksonville. There's going to be a run of receivers early, I think. And with how well Rondale Moore has looked in sort of his pro day and just sort of running around on highlights and how good his route running has been, I think he goes much earlier than 25. Would it be great to have Trevor Lawrence have Rondale Moore available? Sure. But I think he's gone previous to that. Pick 26 by Mr. Trapasso feels like one of those where you just forgot what you were doing and Micah Parsons was still on the board and you're like, oh, I'm gonna throw him here at pick 26. No, I cannot see Micah Parsons falling past pick 15. It just doesn't make any sense to me here. Again, this is the same thing we talked about earlier. If Micah Parsons is available at 26, would the Browns love to have him? Absolutely. But if Trevor Lawrence is there, would they love to have him? Absolutely. But guess what? Neither of those things are happening. For whatever reason here, he doesn't have pick 27 for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if that was an error or an omission or whatever it is, but Baltimore does have a pick here at 27. Baltimore missed out on Juju Smith-Schuster, T.Y. Hilton, I think honestly a bevy of other receivers. For whatever reason, we don't know, probably because they're more of a run first team than they are pass first. I think Lamar Jackson is an incredible quarterback, but he needs some help out there. So to me, Baltimore, Terrace Marshall Jr. probably makes a lot more sense here to get because they missed out on so many receivers. Go get a guy who's big, who can make some plays and help out your team. For pick 28, he has Trevon Moehrig. Look, I get it. He's a good safety. Marcus Williams has the franchise tag on him, if I remember correctly. So I'm thinking this is probably an okay pick. I do think there is a chance he gets a run at him a little bit earlier, maybe 4 to 5 picks previously, but If you can get Trevon here, you take him. At pick 29, I don't know. What are you thinking, Mr. Trapasso? I don't know what you're thinking. Owusu Koramoah, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name right here, is not the guy for Green Bay. At pick 29, I get it. Look, they have made questionable picks. They have not really helped out Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers probably hates them, and he's, you know, just not smiling at all this upcoming season. But I don't think this is the guy they're going after at pick 29. You have other linebackers available at this point. Jamin Davis, Zaven Collins. You can go on offense if you want. There's still some receivers available at this point. I just don't foresee this happening. At pick 30, he has Caleb Farley of the Virginia Tech Hokies. I get it. Look, if they can get him here, great pick, right? I think Farley's a stud. Sat out all of 2020, if I remember correctly. I believe he has a back injury also that he's sort of nursing or getting over. Farley is tall. He's 6'2". He's big, and that dude is fast. If you can get him here, the Bills are going to be even scarier than they were. They've done a really good job of putting together a fantastic team the past few seasons. Farley would help them out even more so. Do I think he's available here? No. Pick 31, he is the Kansas City Chiefs taking Jalen Phillips, the defensive lineman. Defensive lineman is not a bad take for them. I get it. I understand. But no, they got to go offensive line here, in my opinion. You have to give them some dude to help protect Mahomes. They lost a couple of linemen. Yes, they brought in some guys to help replace, but they need to make sure they have linemen they can groom in case an injury happens, because if you saw what happened last year, they lost multiple guys to injury. You need some insurance policies there. At pick 32, the Patriots, the Buccaneers, the new Patriots. He has them taking Creed Humphrey, an offensive lineman from Oklahoma. I don't hate the pick. I think really the Buccaneers, I keep wanting to say Patriots. The Buccaneers are in a spot where they can take the best talent available for them at this point. It could be a running back. I could see him taking Travis Etienne. I could see him taking an offensive lineman like Creed Humphrey. I could see him going on defense to help out in the linebacker spot or defensive line spot to keep, again, shoring that front up, because they have some guys on one-year deals or shorter term deals. So I can see them taking best player available here at the end of the day. Some other picks to note here. He is Jason Owa right here at pick 2 of round 2. Etienne, he has a round 2 pick 3. Asante Samuel Jr., which is crazy that the junior is getting ready to play in the NFL. Makes me feel incredibly old. At pick 5 in the second round. Terrace Marshall at pick 6 for the Bengals. Again, that would be great if they could actually get him at that point. I think the other big one I wanted to talk about is he has Najee Harris going pick 15 in the second round. I don't think there's a shot he lasts that long. I think he's gone before that. I think a team will snatch him up into the first round, whether it's Pittsburgh, the Jets, or a team like that at the end of the first round. He's gone. He won't make it to the second round, in my opinion. So there it is, my first critique ever of a mock draft on my channel. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more of this content, again, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below with what you agree with, what you disagree with, what draft class, or excuse me, what mock draft you want to see me talk about in the future or cover. I want to know. And remember, if we hit 2,000 thumbs up in this video, I will drop my own mock draft showcasing what I think each team should do and ultimately will do this upcoming draft on April 29th. What does your team do? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Catch you guys in the next one.